Hello, everyone. So let's resume these activities of the Animation Day 2023. The idea of these presentations of this Animation Day 2023 are always, to have presentations that have a high artistic level, high narrative level, but that are inspiring. So in this case, a talent such as Diego Porral, whom I've known for many years, I've been following along and giving him my support for a very long time. And in this case, what we wanted, or at least what I wanted you to see with this presentation, is not just to get to know his extraordinary work, but also to see how, as an animator, because he directs and produces short films and he has an unmatched trajectory, and in the end he is a director in a series. So what's the jump from animator to director? So I think he is a person who really understands comedy, intelligent comedy, comedy that is quite enjoyable, as I'm sure you will be enjoying this presentation. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming, and Manuel for this presentation, and to the region of Madrid for inviting me to take the floor. I am Diego Porral,
Y vengo a hablar
and I've come to talk about how to become a director in the animation world, because I think that the trajectory to become a director is not quite clear. We all know how you can become an art director, an animation director. You start as a junior and you climb up the ladder little step by step. But as a director, you cannot do it climbing up the ladder. And looking at my trajectory, I see that there are different paths that can be followed. You can, for instance, sell your own series or movie, which is quite complicated if you don't have any experience. And you can also be in a studio for a very long time. You can be in Pixar for 20 years, and if you work on storyboards, you can climb up the ladder until they trust in you to direct. But my case is a bit different. It's a mix of both things. So that's why I've come to talk to you about. So I'm going to talk to you about the three projects that have really defined my trajectory and that have allowed me to end up directing. And then, which is more interesting if there are students in the room, is the trajectory of how to work in these projects and direct in the end. As an animator in Love, Death and Robots, a supervisor for 2D animation in Spider-Verse, and as a director in Scanvenger's Reign, which was actually premiered yesterday, but not in Spain. So I'm sorry you cannot see it, not just yet. And I directed two episodes, and the first one that I directed will be premiered next week, but you will not be able to see it. But I do invite you to see it when it's premiered here in Spain. So as for my trajectory, I was the typical kid who wants to draw but does not dare to do it. So I studied architecture, which is a career that they told me was, well, it's about drawing, but then you have professional possibilities. There are no professional possibilities and you don't draw. At least when I studied the career, when I studied that career, there were no jobs because we were in the midst of a crisis. But this is what I did, technical drawings. And they would somehow quench my artistic thirst, but I could not leave off of that, and that's all right. And didn't take the career quite seriously, and I created impossible buildings such as these ones. I created a house that would turn people mad, or a skate that had 6 floors, that was 6 floors high, a skate park. And when you study architecture, you find these things such as urban planning or structures. I was a boy who wanted to draw, and I saw myself when I was 20 doing this. So obviously I was depressed. And they said that I would draw, but I wasn't drawing. So I started adding drawings to my projects wherever I could. In some conferences, you had to make you had to make summaries. So I would draw these drawings of my professors, and I actually did my end of degree thesis on the world of animation. And it was work analyzing the most interesting buildings in the world of animation. I'm talking about the Construct Cell or things like that, or Bingley as well. And then I had my impossible worlds where there was no gravity or legal legal frameworks that are the ones that would kill animation, which is what I didn't like. And then I went to, oh no, I'm sorry, no, I that's when I started to use 3D. So that did quench my artistic thirst because 3D has that side to it that is quite creative. I thought, okay, so I can do this. I can do these structures and maybe not urban planning and structures, but I can do 3D. And then I discovered this university, which is called UDIT, and it used to be called ESNE. And I thought that I would get in there to learn how to do 3D for movies. I thought, well, I could be an architect for animation movies. Since I'm an architect, then maybe I could do that. So I started doing some modeling for organic things that I didn't know how to create previously. And I had loads of fun, to be honest. And I was thrilled. So I thought, okay, I'm going to be a 3D modeling expert for buildings and animations. But then I had other things, other subject matters such as character design, and then I started to draw. That was what I wanted to do. My inner kid wanted to do that, so I started designing characters. But then I had my first 2D animation, which was very, very difficult for me. And I've brought some of the first drawings. I know that your eyes are going to bleed by looking at this, but I thought it was interesting to just look at it. So I have this magnificent sequence, as you can see, and or this one, this other. So little by little, I started touching all the different sectors, and I remember that I loved going to class. The adrenaline was always rushing. I was really having so much fun doing it. And during my second year, I did my first short movie, and I brought it so that we can look at it together because I think it's interesting to see how we personally grow. And although it's quite basic, if you think of the context of when I did it, I'm actually quite proud of what I did at the time.
It's a risky business. That's why sometimes we need a push to take the plunge.
Daddy, how did you and Mommy meet?
Well, kiddo, it all happened so many years ago. Everything was more colorful then. You must understand that back then, I wasn't this heavy. In fact, I was probably half my size. I had this strikingly beautiful set of hair.
Like Uncle Luke's?
No, nothing like Uncle Luke's. More like a lion. A well-groomed lion. Which I must say was quite the chick magnet. With this and my sublime muscular body, no wonder your mama fell in love with me.
What? Oh, please. You were half bald by then, had no arm muscle whatsoever, and were already growing your famous belly.
I was the one telling the story.
But you were telling it wrong. Oh, and what were you wearing?
Oh, come on. I had that rocker's groove going on. It wasn't that bad.
You had those horrible earrings.
Okay, of that I'm not proud. Anyway, I was with King Louis on my way back from this hard rock concert under the decayed bridge.
You can't remember a thing. You were walking King Louis around the park in your bright green tracksuit.
Oh, that's right. It doesn't matter. I was walking down this park with King Louis, who used to be my dog, when I suddenly saw your mom for the very first time. She was on a bench with this adorable blue dress.
Pink dress.
Pink dress. Sitting with this horrible monster.
Hey, Lisa's a very nice person.
Fine. Mummy was with Aunt Lisa. They were talking to each other, and Lisa was eating like a pig an absurd amount of ice cream. Suddenly, King Louis went over to them and politely ate a bit of Lisa's ice cream.
You're not telling it right. He literally ate everything.
Hey, just enough for Lisa to kick him away.
Anyway, Lisa was dirty, so she stormed off home. I felt really bad about the dog, so I stayed trying to comfort your dad.
And that left your mother and I alone, taking care of King Louis. From there on, it was a piece of cake.
And that is why your middle name is King Louis II.
Ya lo define, pero como fine, como cabrea, o sea, como...
Fine.
Sí,
Pero
así.
que se me has petado todo, tío.
And that year, I had another 3D short as part of a subject matter that I'm not going to play because I'm a bit ashamed of that one. But it was about all the abandoned technology in a drawer at home. And then we got to the third year, and something happened in the third year where I had to do an internship in a company, and I learned many of the things that they were going to teach me, such as modeling, characters, and so on. So I decided to create my own short to consolidate everything that I had learned during that internship. And at the beginning, it was going to be a 1 minute exercise, just a monologue of an old person talking. But since I didn't really measure what things last, and I thought it was 1 minute, but it ended up being 3 minutes long, so it was a short. And it was actually considered for the Goya Awards, and it went all the way to places that I never expected it to go. And with that, well, that year, during this time, I was hungry. I wanted to eat the world up, and that hunger is actually not so much present right now. But I was excited to having found my passion, and I watched the shorts of Bolin's in university in Paris, and I thought I want to learn how to do that, and I want to be surrounded by those people. So in 2017, I went to Paris. Oh, I brought the short. There's a day.
Cayó todo el camino, desde el 7.º piso hasta el sótano, botando por las escaleras como una pelota de tenis. Y así fue como la abuela y yo conseguimos mover el sofá a la casa nueva. Menos por alguna cadera rota, todo fue bien. Lo teníamos duro en aquel entonces. No teníamos toda esta tecnología, pero deja que te diga, éramos más felices así. Claro está que teníamos unas distracciones divertidas que se perdieron con el tiempo. ¿Qué llegó a pasar con el planking o con los filtros de Snapchat? En aquellos días, si querías ver a un amigo, simplemente quedabas con él en un restaurante y le hablabas por el móvil. Era prácticamente sagrado hacer fotos a la comida, ¿sabes? A la gente le importaba ver que comías bien. Y si te gustaba alguien, hacías lo romántico y lo acosabas por Facebook. No teníamos nada de esas tonterías de los hologramas que hacéis los jovenzuelos de hoy en día. Eran los años dorados. Teníamos valores, ¿sabes? Le dábamos me gusta a las cosas que nuestros amigos publicaban en Facebook, a pesar de que no nos gustaban de verdad. Y compartíamos fotos de niños pasando hambre para crear conciencia. Salvamos las vidas de esos pequeñajos, ¿sabes? ¿Y qué pasó con la música? ¿Qué es ese ruido que escucháis hoy en día? ¿Qué pasó con la música de verdad? Como el reggaetón o el dubstep. Creo que te hubiese encantado la década de los 2010. Cosas nuevas salían a diario. Yo fui un orgulloso portador de un iPhone 7. Esos son una reliquia hoy en día. Ni siquiera te teletransportaba, pero seguían siendo alucinantes para su época. Cada versión hacía mejores fotos que la anterior, y yo me compré todas ellas. Ay, hace un buen día hoy. Hace años que no bajaba al parque. ¿Cómo conocí a la abuela, dice? Bueno, pues en aquel entonces teníamos esta aplicación llamada Tinder, en la que quedábamos aleatoriamente con desconocidos.
How old this short film is. So after that, I went to Paris to study, and I got there knowing a bit of everything: 3D, animation, character design. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but when I was in that classroom, half of the students were actually very good character designers, to the level that it made me feel insecure. So I decided to specialize in 2D animation just because I was insecure. And that is when I focused all of my energy in 2D animation. And this is an exercise I did where we needed to take an existing person, a character, which is the freak of the week from Spanish designer. So we had to take that that character and animate it.
Zip. Yeah, unless you want to work 40 hours a week.
Entonces ya
So I started really enjoying animation. This is a whole video with 3D and everything on it.
Not a single job in this town. There is nothing, nada, zip. Yeah, unless you want to work 40 hours a week.
And what I learned during those years, if some people are
que nos
in Paris, was that you have to think that you sometimes are not. I was in Esne, I was in Paris, and I was seeing what other animators were doing, and I was not at their level, and I had the best mark in my class, but I wasn't happy with it. So I repeated that exercise with this character just for me, because we had already given that work back to the teacher, but I did it for my reel.
Cut up his brain, you bloody baboon!
That year as well, the Bobolins master lasted 2 years, so you have to do all sorts of exercises, and at the end you do a short. But when you're in the first year, you help people in the second year to do their shorts, and that's where I really learned during that first year, because I realized that when you're a teacher, it's not a problem if a student doesn't do it well. I mean, you give them feedback and that's it. But you will not have a bad night's sleep because they didn't make the changes that you asked them to do. But when you're doing your short from Bobolins, you're working 12 hours a day, every day in the week. You will not accept that someone who is helping you in the short term does it incorrectly. So the feedback that they gave me was that their life was depending on it. They wouldn't accept for me to do something wrong. So I did a couple of shorts, and I was lucky because the directors in these 2 shorts, the one Thibault Leclerc, hors de l'eau, and then Jindy, who is the director for Best Friends, are directors in 2 of the main directors, and they have gotten BAFTAs and Andes and so on, and they were giving me feedback. So I was lucky to get their feedback in this work that I was doing that prepared me. So that year, when I was really, really hungry for knowledge, I created another short, only a 1-minute short, because I didn't have the time to do anything longer. Because studying there was so intense that I didn't really have the time to do anything else. But I did the short with everything that I was learning. It only lasts 1 minute.
The ostrich goes meow. But this is not an ostrich, is it? These are the despicable and vile monsters that roam around our streets, but not everyone seems to notice. You might be somehow intrigued by how they walk, talk, or even sing. In all honesty, I too was once captured as a young boy. Thankfully, I've learned my lesson now. So beware. They will take advantage of you and your innocence, appearing before you as gentle and kind creatures, leading you to their beautiful shrines. Be warned, trust not a word they say. Well, there is a reason as to why they want you praying on your knees.
Perdón. Y luego ya paso a
And then I started my second year at Gobelin, and I did my short with 6 other directors, and it was an amazing experience, the best professional experience that I have had up till now, because each director were my best friends. They were all best friends, and we worked very well together. We were animators, and we each came from a different country, and it was quite enriching, although difficult, because we all had our own culture, way of telling things. So getting to this to this balance, this equilibrium was difficult, but I'm really proud of the work we did. And if we do have time, I will show it to you because it's a bit longer. I mean, I might not play it. It's on YouTube. It's called Blanda. You can all watch it. And I do recommend for you to watch it. I'm going to go through it because we are not doing well with time. And I also brought my, not my current demo reel, because I thought that since there are students, I thought it'd be better to see the one that I created when I graduated from Gobelin, because the demo reel is very important as a professional during the first year. And after that, I think I've never shown my demo reel, but they just call you from one place to the next. So the people go to another project and they take you with them. So that's what you do. You just, your projects are your presentation card. But the first year, it's very important to get your first projects. And I wanted to work for a studio that is called The Lion in London. So I created this.
She's mine! You did it. You cut up his brain, you bloody baboon!
We thank thee for always watching over us and keeping us right.
Hey, Arthur, is everything okay?
We drove around all day and there's not a single job in this town. There is nothing, nada, zip. Yeah, unless you want to work 40 hours a week.
Y ya
And after this, I just left for London. I went to London and I spent a year working in different projects as a freelance, going around studios. I did short video clips and movies and series, and then the pandemic hit. And once the pandemic hit, all doors opened. I went to London just to work in London studios, but the world opened up and I started working for the US. And during that time, I decided to use everything that I had learned during my first works on Gobelin. I decided to create my first professional short with everything that I had learned from France to something that really had to do with what I wanted. And I did it with Joaquin Arana, who's there. He's my brother and the best script writer. So we did this short and now we're doing other things together. So I did this. We actually did that during our free time after work, and since there was a pandemic, there wasn't much to do after working. So I brought the trailer, not the whole short, because I wanted to finish my presentation at 2 so that we can all have lunch together. This is Joaquin, because we usually do things to have fun. So if projects come out of it, then that's great. And if not, well, he dresses up because that's what he likes to do. And these are some of the shots, some of the frames, and this is the trailer.
Por fin Madrid ha amanecido sin niebla. Las temperaturas han levemente de aumento, mientras que el viento está por debajo de 2 kilómetros por hora y muchísimo día para volar. En la programación de hoy rendiremos homenaje al inventor de Agarpiste, que revolucionó cómo entendemos la ciudad. Un pibe re bueno. ¿No te parece, Leopoldo? ¿Eh? Leo. Leo.
el corto también está en Movistar y ahora hace poco.
The short is also on Movistar and now it's on YouTube as well, so you can watch it there. And thanks to the pandemic, I started working for the US. And what I said previously about demo reels, that they're not important after your first year, what I do think is really important is social networks, and more specifically Instagram. Instagram for me is an online portfolio. I mean, people are not always going to Vimeo looking at reels, but they're all on Instagram. So it's a portfolio. Everything that you upload is being seen. And Benji Brook is a director who contacted me so that I could animate this Love, Death and Robots. And Love, Death and Robots has been the project where I have done my best animator work. We had all the time in the world to really fine-tune all of these frames, and this is one of the shots, one of the references.
And kill the shit out of this fucking thing.
Sorry for all the cursing. Proper fucking coordinates and shit out of this fucking thing! Sorry for all the cursing. Let's get this proper fucking coordinates and kill the shit out of this fucking thing! Sorry for all the cursing.
Y más plan.
And here we have more sequences. Here you have the storyboard and layout. I will talk about it, but here it is.
Please, tell my wife.
I will phone anything. I promise.
Tell my wife. I fucked her sister.
El guión no era.
It wasn't the best script, but it was really fun to work in this series, and we learned a lot. And Benji started as an animator, then he promoted me to lead in animation lead. And when I was lead, I didn't give so much feedback, but together with the other leads, we created the animation style, the personality of the characters, and we kind of fixed the frames of people who were younger than us, juniors. And given that, and I have to talk about things that is like directing, etc. I would like to talk to you about the layouts of the series, because up to then I didn't think the layouts were very important, but together with a colleague, Paul Lecobi, we were able to work on layouts. It's not so easy, but it's a great, it gives you a huge base. And since he was the designer, all his work was added to the model shifts as they were taking place. So the expressions and points of view of characters. And it's nothing to do with directing, but it's like a little bonus. And if you're working in your own projects in 2D, I encourage you to invest money and time in layouts, because it does change everything. I came from advertising in London, etc., where you work as an animator in the storyboard, but it's not the same. This stage really changes the whole cinematography of your project. So these are the initial designs that we had to work on, and thanks to layouts, we developed the style of the characters much more. And then this project was in Titmouse, which is an LA studio, and since they liked the animation, they called me to work in Spider-Verse, because they contracted Titmouse to do the 2D of the film, which is about 2 or 3 minutes of the whole film. But anyway, it was great to be there, working as a supervisor. So I had to set up the teams, talk to the directors, feedback, something that as a lead I didn't do so much. So I was a supervisor together with another, Diego Porral, an Argentinian supervisor, and they found it difficult because Diego Porral and Diego Porral is difficult to they get it mixed up a lot. So I used to get involved in his things and him on mine by mistake. But at the beginning, I don't know if you've seen the film, but Mike's explaining what's happened over the last few years, and then there are like sketches on through scratches on his notepad. And so we had to animate those sketches with his style that I found fantastic, the work that he did with his team. However, I was in charge of doing flashbacks of the villain with this style, with the Sergio Toppi style, who's an Italian comic artist that has passed away since then, but he's 2D and he's crazy. I've never worked in so much detail. And Death and Robots, it was absurd. And so the first thing I did, well, I set up my own team. I contacted a colleague from Gobelin, Jules Bourget, who works in comics but has a style very similar to Sergio Toppi. So he did all of that. He had learned the value of the layouts, and he did actually most of the layouts for the project. In many cases, there were pre-existing plans from a previous film. There's flashbacks of the villain, basically, but there were also new scenes like this one that you can see here. So what we did is sometimes we copied the 3D scene in this style, but other times we had to create our own ones, and the work done by Julie was incredible, really. And I have never worked in a project where the directors gave us so many notes, frame per frame, correcting even the last line. And I was the only person, and they never said anything to me. Everything I showed them, it was approved, authorized.
Here we have more examples. These are some of the new scenes we had to create. This is the villain spot, in case you haven't watched the film. And I brought a little piece. We did a total of 2 minutes, so I did just a short sequence with that style. And the truth is that we worked for 3 months in the project, and I think that each animator did like 5 seconds, or is how long it took for each frame, but anyway. And then we get to Scavengers, which is I have directed some of the episodes of this series, and it was also done in the same studio that I mentioned before. When you're working for a studio for a long time, in the end you end up directing. But I was lucky that Benji, who is the person that contacted me for Death and Robots, he was going to direct 2 episodes, and they was going to be in charge of coordination of the different episodes, making sure that we all used a similar language, etc. So Benji proposed me to direct the episodes that he was in principle supposed to do, because he was happy with the work that I had done in Death and Robots, and also he knew that I was doing also my own short in my free time. So it was a mixture of doing my shorts in my free time and on your daily, and then do your work in your daily life. And it was the combination perfect for him to propose to me this. There's also a lot of luck, because the animator, for instance, in Clouds, he wasn't offered to be the director of the film. It doesn't always work that way, but I was lucky. And Benji and Tigma, this studio, really rewards people who work well. And after this series, many of the people that stood out here will have, if there's a second season, they will be directing those. There'll be, if there is a second season, you can watch it on HBO. So I work with the illustrators. I led 6 out of 12. Sorry, 6 out of 11. 6 and 11. I did episodes 6 and 11, sorry. So this is the film. This is the series. And I know I cannot be objective, but if I'm objective, I think that this is the best series ever done, obviously, but I'm not objective. Because you'll see it in the trailer, but...
like a puzzle. Nothing really makes sense in the way we know it.
Ursula, what is happening to me?
I don't know.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you. So the series is about some astronauts that get lost in an alien planet, and they have to live with the flora and fauna of that planet. They get lost there, stored away, and it's the art direction is fantastic. The animation was great, and the animation team is the one that's in Spider-Verse and Love, Death and Robots. But I mean, I don't know what's the budget of this series, but there's 6 hours in total of content, and it's the qualities of a feature film. So we were really lucky, and in all the departments, the teams were to dream for, really. And they said it's not about the team, it's not about the money, it's about the team. So just contact whoever you wish to participate that you think will be good. So it's great. And then, well, you have to try and see if you can watch it. Hopefully it'll be in Spain soon. Anyway, here it is. And it's what I said before. Thanks to these projects, this is how I ended up directing, obviously. But if it hadn't been for the shorts that I did on my free time, I don't think I would have stood out to those people, like the important people that made decisions. Because when they offered me to be a director for HBO, one thing was what the creators and Benji wanted, but another thing was obviously all the meetings that I had with the HBO executives to get the approval. I had to change all my status on the social media to go from animator to a director, so that I didn't have also dark things in my life in the past. So I think doing shorts in your free time or personal projects in general is how you stand out, rather than limiting yourself to the day work. That I know that as an animator is tough, I know that, but if there's a pandemic and you have nothing better to do, then I encourage you to do shorts. And I would like to finish saying that even though I've done my dream job, which is to work in my favorite series with my favorite team, I mean, everything's to dream for, but really I'm working on I continue to work on my personal projects because I like it, and because it's fun, because I like what I do. And it's not because we have the ambition of moving into a series, just simply because we want to have fun and doing things together. And so together with Benji, we do this without much expectation. I'm not going to talk much about the project because still in the beginning, but the series is about, the protagonist is him, and he is totally burnt out at work, something that I currently having. It's a coincidence, but it's good to use the bad things that happen to you in life to make short movies. And let's see how it goes. We'll present it next week in Carol Spring Road. In Carter Spring Road, we'll present it next week. So I encourage you to follow everyone on this list, because they are from the Scavengers, Spider-Verse, and Love, Death and Robots. Yeah, if there's any problems because you're following them, you tell them Diego told you to follow them. Can you please put back the previous slide? I think that the presentation is, you've done what we asked you for, and I think it's very important also the issue of what Diego said. And next week, with the support of the Autonomous Region of Madrid and the City Council of Madrid, we have the Carter Springboard, which is an event devoted to the promotion of new talent in Europe. You can still register, and especially if you want to present projects next year, there'll be very important people in the jury, like Ms. Blanco, who's here, is hiding here, concealed amongst us. She's very important, and you have there all the information with special prizes for students. And now, after this advertising spot, we can continue with questions. Advertising spot about the Cartoon Springboard. Hi, thank you very much for the presentation. I have 2 questions, simple. First, do you regret having left 3D, given that the industry is growing a lot on the sense of films such as Spiderman and Ninja Turtles, etc., make you think that there's still hope for 2D animators that are being trained? And secondly, this new series, the Scavengers series, how much are they based in Nausicaa and Akira? Because the style It's really identical. Yeah, I know. So do I regret it? No, not at all. I love 3D, and we're doing a 3D series. But I know animators that also moved on to 3D, and they regret not ever drawing again. And I think if you don't draw, well, if I was drawing, I would be fully depressed, I think. So I do not regret nothing, not at all. In fact, when I was directing, I didn't have a lot of time to draw, and I let them they let me animate certain scenes. I don't like to be always a director. I like to direct and to animate. I need to draw. And as a director, you take notes, and you just using your pen, but nothing, but you're not really drawing. So I encourage you all, and if in case of doubt, well, I don't think there's lack of work at all. I think it's what they're doing in 3D is incredible. The new styles, yes, Spider Verse and Ninja Turtles is great, but I would never choose 3D. You can't choose 3D thinking that you're going to work on drawing. I think choose your path, whatever you fancy, depending on what you fancy doing, really. I have some projects in 3D, but in my daily life, I didn't have so much fun. And then there's other things I animated, and you've never seen them, the results, but I really enjoyed it. So I think you have to do what you like, and try to go far with what you like doing, and not thinking about whether there'll be work or there'll be projects, because there's not going to be work in 2D or 3D either with the artificial intelligence. So. And there's a lot of work. There's a lot of work in 2D. I don't know. Maybe he doesn't have so much. He's not so well known. But there's a lot of work in 2D. And in Scavengers, it was hard for us to find 2D people. One very important thing that I haven't said, and I think is one of the big virtues of Diego, is that you can see he's always done very shorts. But you don't need a lot of minutes to demonstrate. You don't need many minutes to demonstrate talent, right? So sometimes you try to do a short movie of 17 minutes, and yes, when they proposed me to direct a short movie for Pixar within any million amounts of options, I wouldn't know what to choose. But when you don't have money, you're a student, you have 2 minutes, 3 minutes with 2 characters, or 1 with a couple of backgrounds, that's enough. It helps you. You do animate, you write the scripts. Obviously, I would like to have money to do very long and expensive short movies, but that's not enough. Animation is good, and small pieces of animation are great for starting. I can't see anyone, so... Oh yeah, I can see you now. Hi. I have a short question. I would like to know how your short movie managed to get to the Goya Awards. Did you follow any distribution channel, and how did it affect your professional career when you got to the Goya Awards? Well, my first festival that I did in Esne, we have a film motion festival by one of the lecturers there. And before it used to be just for shorts of the students there at that school, but now it's open for all students. But the best, the award is for the best short is to distribute it to several festivals. There's a distributor that takes it to different festivals, and it did. And I was also lucky that one of the people who worked there for that distribution company wanted to set up her own company for distribution, and asked me if she could use my short film for her company to start. So she asked me whether she could distribute for free my short film, just not with a large distribution company, and she sent it to everyone, any festival. So there were I participated in lots of the festivals and the short lists, and then they sent it to Goya Awards. But it's the process the same for everyone, right? So you just have to present it and be nominated. I mean, rather than doing other things where, when I was a student, I had to, that was more difficult, the first one, because you have to become self-employed, you need to do lots of paperwork, the things that I'm not going to say all the bad things about the Academia de Cine and how difficult it is to do a short film. But so I did all the bureaucracy. They did it for me, in fact, so I didn't have to do it, which was great. But then once they send it, that's it. You can do a bit of campaign, but I didn't have the means to do it either. So it's just about sending it. Striking luck, basically. And I don't know the decisions that are taken behind closed doors about job offers, etc. I don't know if they take that into account or not, but I think the impact of prizes awards in general is great, so that my parents think that I'm doing good, rather than I don't understand what my kid is doing. But I wouldn't work just for the awards, because then you'll feel disappointed if what you wait is just awards. So I encourage you to just do things. And if they nominate you for the Goyas, fantastic. It's great, and you go there to the event, and it's lovely. But if you want to do more shorts and feature films in Spain, then Goyas. The Goya awards are great. They give you there's a point system. But if you want to work in the US, it's also great to have awards to obtain the visas, etc. But anyway, so it does have importance. But remember, I showed my demo reel, and it had a shot of a day in the park. I showed it to one of the ones that do the Minions, one of those people working there, and he said, take this out. Because in terms of animation quality, a day in the park is not amazing, right? So when you try to find work as an animator, the guys don't care whether you have a Goya award, for instance, there. They just want a good animator. If you want to be a director, then yes, the award will help you, obviously. But I'm sorry if I didn't answer your question, but I wasn't clear about my answer. I'm really sorry. My name is Steven. Diego, thank you very much for your presentation. It was very inspiring. My question is about humor. And large projects such as Spiderman and Scavengers. Have you been able to integrate your humor in these large projects, or in that sense you were more limited? Well, I think my humor comes thanks to Joaquin. I do the drawing and he gives the humor to them. But I didn't have anything creatively. I didn't have any decision making. There were 3 directors at the film, for the feature film. One was the director of art of the last film. The art director was a great guy, we could say. So I couldn't add anything from a creative perspective. I couldn't say, could we change the script? No. But that was for Spider-Verse. But for Scavenger, we were able, as directors, to participate more. But it's not really about humor, that series, really. So it's not like, oh, Joaquin, in my personal projects, that it's great to do absurd things, and he allows me to do it. But we couldn't do it in Scavengers. I'm really sorry. Well, thank you, Joaquin. Good morning. Before that, you said in order to be a director, you can do it in a studio by getting promoted, basically, or you can start with storyboards. And you said that you had done a mixture, right, of both. Could you explain to me if for your shorts you did storyboards, and how do you go from storyboards to director? Well, I'm not a storyboarder, even though for my shorts I have done storyboards for Scavengers, yes, and other projects, but it's not my main asset. Storyboarders are the ones that then manage to be directors. Why? Because, for instance, when you're the supervisor of a storyboard, you add so much to the story, you make so many creative decisions, that the next logical step is to become a director after being the storyboard lead. As an animator is more difficult, because you can prepare the story after a specific animation. You can animate great, but maybe you don't have as much global context or impact in the story. But being an animator, I've been offered that, but thankfully, only because I had those shorts that show that as well as an animator, I could tell stories. So I think that's why I said I've had that mixture of both paths. I'm sure there are other paths to becoming a director, but I think if you're just an animator, I know animators that are great animators, best in the world, but to finish directing, they have to go through storyboarding, because to jump from being an animator to direct is risky and difficult, even though I did. But Any other questions?
A la hora... Uy.
Hi. When you write, did you write stories when you were a child? Or did you start writing in order to do the shorts? I think I started writing in order to do the short movies too. That in ESNE we had script writing subjects. At the university I learned about animation, story making, etc. Things that were in general. But for instance, I believe they said that they didn't have stories, that it was just a complex animation without much narrative to it. Once I started teaching or learning script writing, I found it more interesting, and I wanted to tell stories, basically. So I had that interest and that motivation. I had a teacher that used to tell me, when you're good at doing something, you realize how badly you do other things. For instance, some people who don't know how to do anything, they think they do everything well. But I knew that I did animation well, so I knew I can do script writing and storyboarding, etc. But I know I don't do that so well, so I try to get help for that. So in stories, for instance, I support Joaquin. I bring him coffee, basically. He's the expert on other things, and I just focus on doing the drawings, really. You have to do it with your best at. Well, thank you very much, Diego. A big round of applause for him, please. Thank you so much. I would like to thank you all for being here, and I would like to remind you that I'll see you at 4:30. Mariana Cadenas will be with us. We'll talk about her project, Exit Tales. We invite Exit Tales. I wouldn't miss it.